Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, brought to you, obviously, as always, by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you this morning for the first time in a while. So back from vacation, back from Florida, ready to roll here as we come to you on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube, and there's a lot going on right now. So that's the best thing. After the Super Bowl, I like to cut out all that dead period. Plus, January was so cold, and the weather was so bleak in the Northeast. I mean, it was as cold as I can remember, and I heard somebody say it was the coldest January in like 35 years. It felt like that. It felt every day the wind chill was like zero. So went down to Florida, played some golf, played my best round the day before I left, so that was encouraging. A lot of wind, though. You have to play in the Florida. If you go to spring training in Florida, or you go to play golf in Florida, you have to be ready and be prepared to play in a 3-club wind, because the winds are ferocious. I mean, it'll be sunny, it'll be blue sky, but it will be blowing a gale, and it blows more often than not, as a matter of fact. But hey, you get used to that. In baseball, you get used to it. In golf, you've seen the golfers in Florida recently, as a matter of fact, in both Palm Beach, near where I was hanging out, or up in Orlando at Arnie's tournament last weekend, as they get ready now this week for the players. And we'll talk about the players tomorrow, because the players, which is one of the great tournaments now, used to be the best field. It's not now because of the whole live nonsense. And now you don't even have the shadow of Tiger Woods, even though he wasn't Tiger Woods anymore. Still, you had him once in a while out there, and it was fun to watch, even though he wasn't playing very well. But now, with the Achilles tendon surgery, he's gone. So no Tiger Woods as we head towards Augusta, and we'll be there in a couple of weeks. Now, there's a lot going on with the Yankees. We'll get to it. I know panic is settling in for Yankee fans everywhere. The Mets are interesting. They have to obviously compensate for the injury to their catcher. They'll be able to do that. But right now, football's front and center, and all eyes are on the Giants. And I tweeted this from Florida a couple of days ago, because someone very close to the situation had called me and said, hey, the Giants are doing anything within any form of reason to get Aaron Rodgers. They desperately want Aaron Rodgers, and that's where that is this morning. Now, we don't know where Aaron Rodgers is going to go. We know there's the Giants and the Steelers, which is highly unusual in its own right, because, the Steelers and the Giants are family. So they usually aren't competing in any way. And this is a very unusual case to have those two franchises, which are so close in terms of, hey, they're intermarried, they're family. To have them opposing each other or competing against each other is very rare. You don't know if a third team is involved. You don't know if there is. I don't see him going as a backup to Minnesota. I don't think he has any interest in that. He clearly wants to start. He wants a big contract. He's going to get a big contract. The numbers being thrown around are impressive. The money's not the issue right now. The Giants are tired of losing, but they're also tired of not mattering. They don't like that they don't matter. They don't like that they've been pushed to the back of the pack. They don't like that they get the 4th and 5th team broadcasting their games. They don't like any part of this. And they know the quickest way out of that is to get Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, because that at least gives them some sizzle, gives them some buzz, gives people a reason to watch their games. And, hey, we know it's not a long-term thing. He wants a 2-year contract. And my understanding from someone who knows, and I'm telling you, you can't have a better source. They told me that the Giants' plan was to sign Rodgers, go all out to sign Rodgers. And I think they've gone even farther in contract than they wanted to. and to draft a quarterback high in the draft, first round, maybe even the number one pick, maybe make a move for that, and then have him develop. So the Giants are trying to give you a future. They're trying to give you something that you can really, as a fan, buy into. Aaron Rodgers, 2 years, hopefully makes them a lot better. Rodgers to neighbors, etc. Okay, and at the same time have Rodgers, one of the great quarterbacks of all time, help develop the youngster they bring in. Be Cam Ward, okay? That's the Giant plan. They've also gone out and built their secondary. Clearly, they've gone out and made two major moves in the secondary. They've improved a lot there. Allen's a good player. They go out, they've been aggressive. Hey, the general manager and the head coach know that this is it for them. If they don't show market improvement, they're not going to be here next year. They know that. They don't want to go with a young quarterback this year because they know it's going to be in a division where they're going to go into the division markedly the fourth team. Dallas will bounce back with Dak. They'll fill the holes. They'll be healthier. Washington is loading up. They made the huge quantum leap last year. Philly is going to take a little step back. We know they've been already depleted, but they're still going to be a good football team. Giants are going to go into the season picked for last everywhere. They know that. But more than anything else, they want to be relevant again. They want people to pay attention to them again. They want their fans to be excited to come to the games again. And that's what Rodgers, they hope, is going to provide. Now, don't look at this right now as what happens if they don't get Rodgers, who a lot of people feel is going to go to Pittsburgh. I don't know if he's going to Pittsburgh or not. With Rodgers, how do you ever know? Supposedly he has great respect for Mike Tomlin. I think it's kind of an odd match. Again, two old pros. I'm not saying they can't coexist. I just don't see him as a Steeler. I also think he shouldn't want any part of that division. Not that the NFC East isn't tough, but I don't want any part of that division. Okay, at his age, I don't want any part of it. Coming to the Giants is not thrilling. The Jets were a much better fit. He could have taken the Jets to 11 wins next year. I talked about that because the Jets were close. If they had kept Devontae Adams, who's now a Ram, if they had kept the guys they had to keep and brought Rodgers back, but they decided they didn't want any part of that because they want to build now. They want to build a culture. Okay, that's their right. And they don't want an old quarterback who's been a diva his whole life. They don't want him. They want the quarterback just to be a player. They don't want the quarterback to be a superstar diva. They don't want that. The Giants do want that because the Giants want all the attention that the Jets got last year. The Giants didn't like that the Jets were the story last year. Win, lose, draw, they were the story. They had a nightmarish season, but they still were the story. They were bad. They were disappointing. They were not relevant. And it has bothered the Giants. Little things. They're getting, their fans are ridiculing them. They're getting abused everywhere they go. But more than that, it's the way they're being treated nationally. Not like the Giants anymore. And that has hurt them. And they want to end that. And Rodgers ends that. Now, they don't get Rodgers. Russell Wilson's not the answer. I don't like that move at all. I am pro Rodgers. You know, I think Rodgers has got a lot left. I want him behind a good offensive line. The Giant line isn't good enough for him right now. The Jet infrastructure was going to work with the right coaching. Now, listen, we don't know if Aaron Glenn's going to be a good head coach or not. You never know. We're going to find out. If he's a leader, we're going to find out if he's a head coach. We don't know. There's no way to ever know about a coordinator. I don't care how good he is. I've used the examples of Bill Arnsparger and Norv Turner throughout the years. Bill Arnsparger was the perfect assistant. He was as top lieutenant as you could be, and he was a disaster as a head coach. He was 7-24 as a Giant head coach after building a no-name defense and having perfect seasons in Miami. It was a disaster. You never know. But this is going to be a couple days, and who knows what Rodgers. Rodgers might want to squeeze another team in. He likes drama. He likes stringing everybody along. He likes that his name's being mentioned everywhere. So he'll probably play it out longer than you would like. So everyone's saying, oh, today's the day. You don't know what the day is with Rodgers. And I don't know where he's going. I'm not trying to tell you I do. What I do know is that the Giants are all in financially, emotionally, aesthetically. They have done everything they can do. They've improved their roster. They've done everything they can do. And talking to him and pulling out the stops, I'm sure they've tried to sell him on, let's show the Jets how wrong they were. Let's put this right in the Jets' face. I'm sure part of that Rodgers would love. Okay, he didn't want to leave. The Jets had different ideas. Fine. That's their right. They went out and got Fields. Do I love Fields as a quarterback? I don't. Does he have some ability? Yes. Is he unproven? Oh, without question. And he has got to improve a lot as a thrower. Can he run? Yes. Is he a good thrower? No. He's got to improve a lot. Maybe he will. We'll see. This is his big chance. That's the move they wanted. They made it. Okay, we'll see how it works. They have a core that should be a winning team. Hey, they won 5 games last year. They left 7 on the table. 5 of them should have been automatic wins. They gave away games every way you could possibly give away games. But let's not even go there because we've talked about it so many times. So the question now, as this drama builds, is does Rodgers come try to rescue the Giants from the abyss where they have no other option that works? They really don't. There's Rodgers and there's nothing else. They need Rodgers. Now, I know some people are going to think Rodgers is a bad idea. I understand that. But if you're telling me you think Rodgers is done, you don't know what you're talking about. If you're telling me that he's a lot of work, I'll agree. You want to tell me he's a pain in the rear end? I agree. You want to tell me he could be disruptive to a franchise? I agree with the Jets. Let him be all that. Nobody screamed last year when Rodgers didn't show up in the spring, except me. I told you that was a big problem. And when the season was over, you heard what a disaster that was because it completely undermined the authority of the entire franchise and the head coach. It should never have been allowed. But Saleh wasn't smart enough to realize he had to make a stand with Rodgers to keep his job. He was not a smart head coach. He was a terrible head coach. He's a good defensive coordinator. He's back doing what he's supposed to do. He's a defensive coordinator again. That's where he belongs. Sorry, he's a nice guy. So everybody tells me he's not a head coach. Maybe he'll grow into one day. Maybe he won't. They got worse after he left because they shorthanded the squad in every way. They demoted one guy in the room. They took the defensive coordinator and made him the head coach and didn't replace anybody, and they had no coaching. They were cut too thin, and they didn't know what they were doing. And it cost them dearly. That was Woody's fault. The Jets aren't the story right now. The Giants are. The Jets are on their path. We'll see how it goes. The Giants need Rodgers to rescue them, not just in terms of credibility on the field, but giving them life off the field because they're dead. They've become an embarrassment. He can change that just by his presence. They want to matter again. I'm telling you, you don't think of the Giants in those terms, but that's very important to them now. They're starved for it. They want people, including their fan base, to care about the Giants again. Rodgers can deliver that. Let's see if he does. Let's see if they can get him in the building and signed. I think it's just the Steelers. I don't know. I thought the perfect spot for Rodgers was Indianapolis. Smart head coach. Great running back. Good offensive line. I thought, excuse me, I thought that was the perfect spot for him. They didn't want him. They probably didn't want to pay him. They didn't want the tumult. Now they got two guys who run better than they pass. Okay, we'll see where that takes them. The Jets, Fields, everyone seems to be very positive about it. I'm very cautious about it. Fields has got to show me a lot more than he showed me so far as a quarterback. A lot. I'll have an open mind. Now, a lot of free agent moves. It wasn't a great free agent class, but it was an interesting one from a standpoint of the quarterbacks. Darnold goes to Seattle. He didn't get a killer contract, but he got a home. Problem is they stripped him of his wide receivers. Metcalf's gone. Lockett's gone. That hurts. Now they have no offensive line, and they just took away two of his wide receivers. Good luck. Geno goes to the Raiders. Okay. Geno's Geno. Good days, bad days. Dangerous quarterback. Makes a lot of mistakes. Fields goes to the Jets. Daniel Jones goes to the Colts. And we await Aaron Rodgers. And we see what's left for Russell Wilson. Some of the other moves, hey, nothing earth-shattering. I like Bosa to the Bills a lot. I like Najee Harris to the Chargers a lot. Harbaugh doesn't make bad moves. Every move he makes has a purpose, has a reason, and it works out because he has a plan. He brings in guys to fill a niche. Here's what I need, I go get it. That's why it works, because he goes, gets what he needs, because he knows how to coach football, and he wins. Adams to the Rams, again, they know what they're doing. He's got a lot left. They know what they're doing. There are smart teams. There are dumb teams. There are teams that make you shake your head, like Jacksonville, which I love Liam Cohen. I started talking about him last year before anyone heard his name. The bottom line, though, is I don't know what they're doing down there with their signings. I mean, the first three had me scratching my head. I'll give them some time. They believe in their quarterback. So do I. I believe in Trevor Lawrence. Always have. He played hurt. He doesn't like to sit. That was his issue. His ability and toughness don't ever count. This guy's won. And he's already been in the playoffs, and he's already made a great comeback in the playoffs. He will be fine. His career will be fine. People who are knocking him are out of their minds. He can play. And Zach got a contract. And he's probably going to get to play because you know what's going to happen down there. Tua's going to get hurt. So Zach got some money, and he's down with the fish. So good for him. Now, I'll get to some emails later because I haven't in a while. Sign up today for the Mike Francesa podcast newsletter at MikeFrancesAPodcast.com. You get videos, you get special stuff, you get all stuff and some goodies and different things. So check it out. Now, I know everybody is acting like the Yankee season has, come and gone. Hey, they've taken some hits. When you have older players and you're top heavy, Stanton, we know, every year he's going to miss a month. Well, now he's going to miss a lot more than a month. The problem is no Stanton, no Soto. Judge, unless somebody steps up and has a big season, is going to get 200 walks. You can basically, if he's having a good year, you can take it to the bank. He's going to get 200 walks. He might as well resign himself. Who's going to pitch to him in a big spot? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Now, is this Yankee season dead? No. Are they now, talked about the same way they were when they loaded up? They loaded up the pitching. Now, everybody has to step up. The problem is they lose Cole, okay. I'm not the biggest Cole guy in the world, but still, you're losing a lot of quality innings. Now, you're asking 2 to be a 1 and be the leader. The question is, what if they lose Heel for a long time? Now they're really short. Now they got to go out and get themselves another pitcher. And they can do that. I mean, they have the wherewithal to do it. They have the finances to do it. They have every resource to do it. Whether they go down and go get, Alcantara or get whoever they get, they can wait on that. We know where they are in the bullpen. Now you got question marks. You're going to have question marks that you got to answer in the starting rotation. You got health issues with Heel. You figure in no Stanton. You figure in no Cole. Don't want to have Heel out for a long period of time, but who knows? Now you got to have guys step up and answer the bell. They got arms in that organization. I'm not worried about that. They need guys. It puts pressure on guys behind Cole. It puts pressure on Bellinger. We don't know what they're going to get out of certain spots. They don't have an automatic 1-2 punch like they had last year. That 1-2 punch last year was, you had 2 of the top 3 players in baseball offensively on the same team, batting back to back. And they complemented each other perfectly. You don't have that again. That's a big void. They still don't have a leadoff hitter, which has bothered me for years. Absolutely bothered me for years. They had plenty of time to get one. I've wanted them to get one for years. I like Grisham. I've always liked Grisham. I'd like to see him get enough at bats. I don't think he did last year. He hit some home runs. His batting average was awful. He did hit some home runs, including one big one. We know he can play defensively. I think he could be a surprise. I don't know what Chisholm is yet. It looks like a good offensive player. We'll see what he is defensively. I think Bellinger will do well. He's a big key, obviously, as is Dominguez. I don't think anybody doesn't think Dominguez is going to show power. We know he is. The question is, now, with no Stanton, you can take him and make him a DH. And, the problem is you don't want to pin him this early in his career to that position, but I don't see any way around it. He's just dreadful. He's dreadful defensively, let's be honest. But that's not what's going to sink this team. What's going to sink this team, if obviously anything happens to Judge, and we know there's been years that's happened, they can't afford that. They can't afford. They've used up all their injuries for the year. They can't afford another big pitcher to go down. They can't afford an injury to Judge. We know that. Are they going to scramble to win 90 games in that division? Yes, they are. But they're going to make the playoffs, and that's all they have to do. They don't have to win the division. They don't have to match the Dodgers stride for stride. The Yankees right now, their number was 93.5, which I thought was legitimate. Now it's down to, depending where you are, 91 or even 90.5, because everyone's betting against them now. The Dodgers number is 104.5, and everyone's betting over. That's 14 games difference. Don't put them in the same league right now. They're not. The Mets aren't in the league with the Dodgers yet either. I'm not trying to say they are. They're closer to the Yankees than they are. But here's where the pressure falls on the Yankees. The pressure is not the expectation going into the season. There's an expectation to make the playoffs. There doesn't have to be an expectation with these injuries to win 100 games. The problem is if the Mets get off and they're really clicking and they get off well and they're having a big season, that will put an extraordinary amount of pressure on the Yankees. Because now you're competing for that dollar that's up in the air. Now you're competing for the fan who goes to 5 or 6 games a year, who's got money, but goes to 5 or 6 games a year, but goes where there's buzz, goes where there's a storyline, goes where there's excitement, the kind that's produced by a Soto or a Judge. But where does that guy go? Now, the Mets, as you know, their owner is very upset about his attendance. He should be with the bucks he spent. The Mets' attendance last year was bad. It was surprising early in the season how empty the place was. They didn't catch on until late. Let's see what happens this year. With Soto there, I expect it to be very different. Remember, the Yankees are number 2 in attendance. The Mets are like 18th. That's got to change for the Mets. And I think it will. Now, I don't expect them to do what the Yankees do every day, not yet. But if that gap narrows a lot and they get off really well and they are really buzzing, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the Yankees. That's the most pressure they will get. They'll get more pressure from that than they will in the standings. What the Yankees have to guard against is a bad start, that they've been beat down by this. And the way they overcome that is having some of these guys really step up and realize the challenge of how they have to fill voids. There's no Cole, step in. There's no Stanton, step in. And obviously, that you have the best offensive player in the sport. But they're not going to pitch to him in big spots unless somebody shows them a reason why they have to. But do I think the Yankee season's dead? No. Do I think the Yankees right now will struggle to win 90? Maybe. But I think they'll make the playoffs. And I think they can win 90 games if they push. Hal might have to go into his pocket. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to. Not that he doesn't, okay? But he doesn't have to. He doesn't want to on the level that it might take to compensate for what's been lost. But again, let it unfold. Let's see how some of these guys answer the bell. They can do this in stages. They don't have to do it all at once. So I think the demise of the Yankees is crazy. Have they taken a hit? Absolutely. You can't lose guys like Cole and Stanton and Heel and not take a hit. Has it destroyed this season? No. It's made it more challenging, maybe more interesting. It was going to be a very different season without Soto anyway. And I know if you think you're going to attack Soto by getting on his defense, come on, please. He's going to blow a ball in the outfield once in a while. He's not a butcher. He's not good, but he's not a butcher. I watched him play all year. He's not a good outfielder, but he's not a terrible outfielder. He's not Dominguez. The ball's not going to hit him on the head. He's going to be fine. And offensively, he's going to be great because he's always great. And let's be honest, the Mets, top of that lineup, Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Vientos, Nimmo. That's wicked. If Vientos is what everybody thinks he is, and to me, what made me think he is the postseason. The regular season, I've seen a million guys have big years and come back and fall apart when they adjust. But when you hit like he hit in the postseason, where they have adjusted, where they spent weeks scouting him, where they made the adjustments that they wanted to make, and he was pitching against pitchers who could make and execute the pitches that they needed to execute, and he's still taking the ball out of the ballpark. That shows me he's real. What he did in the postseason showed me he's real. You don't do that in the postseason unless you're real. He's a legitimate power hitter. Ball goes out of the ballpark everywhere. I saw him take some swings in person and knock the ball out to right field, and it went out easy. That's genuine power. He has a chance to be really good. And they are loaded. And not only are they loaded at the top, they have a nice fit. There's a nice balance to what they have because they have the igniter who not only can get on base, but also has tremendous power, extra base power at the top of the lineup. Lindor Soto is a tough combination. That is a lethal combination. And I think Holmes, and I never liked Holmes as a relief pitcher because he did not have a repeatable pitch he could rely on. But I think he's going to be surprisingly good as a starter. I think he's going to have a big year. I really do. I think it's going to work out really well for him. And they have a habit of improving these pitchers. You got to give them credit for that. So everyone went in last year and killed their pitching, and look what happened. They know what they're doing. And they'll overcome, the hit to the catcher. We know that. All right, listen, no one wants to lose their starting catcher for that long, but hey, they'll overcome it. They have a chance. They're in a tough division. Phillies are good. Braves are good. Okay. The Yankees are in a tough division because I think the Red Sox are improved a lot. And I think Tampa will come back. A lot of no-name guys. I know everyone's looking at it and saying, oh, they don't have anybody that's got a one number on the whole team, blah, blah. Never, ever, ever underestimate Tampa. They know what they're doing. They're as smart as they come. So never underestimate them. The division's going to be tough. Nobody might win 90 games in that division. 89, 90 might win the division, which is fine. Send a whole bunch of them to the playoffs. Do I think the Yankees will win 95 games? No. Do I think they'll make the playoffs? Yeah, I do. I think they'll make the moves they have to make. But they've taken some hits here. There's no way around it. I mean, you can't lose the kind of quality they lost and compensate for it. There's just no way around it. I mean, that's all there is to it. But you need guys to step up. You brought them in. Now you're asking them to take more prominent roles. That's it. That's it. We are a couple of days from the NCAA tournament. We'll obviously cover it wall to wall as we always do. There's the added incentive this year of St. John's. I told you early in the season that I thought this would be a special year. Patino was very high on this team last summer when I sat with him in Saratoga. The only guy that I would say he hasn't gotten out of what I thought he would was Smith, for a variety of reasons. Richmond's come on gangbusters, although will he ever make a big free throw? I don't know. Team is a brilliant defensive team. And they are sensational. To me, they're the best defensive team in the country. They're better than Houston. I like them better than Houston. I like them better than Tennessee. Of course, they can switch everything. And they are tireless. They get better as the game goes on. And they are so good on the boards and so good with their second chance opportunities, but they are bricklayers. They are never going to make a lot of threes. If they make 10 threes in a game, you can shut the door. I don't care who they're playing in the country, except Duke, maybe Auburn. The game's over. They make 10 threes, the game's over. No one's beating them if they make 10 threes, but they'll never make 10 threes in a game. If they make 10 threes in a game, it'd be a miracle. But the big question is, as we get ready to start this, and I expect them to win the Big East because I think they're going to be very good when they play a couple days in a row. Plus, the crowd's going to be super energized starting tomorrow when they play at noon in the 8-9 game against the 8-9 winner, which will be Butler, Providence, probably Butler. They have three guys that are going to go to the foul line a lot. Only one of them can you count on to make a big free throw, and that's Lewis, who's their best player and was the best player in the Big East this year. Makes big shots, always there at the end. I mean, really, I liked Lewis last year. I love him this year. Is he the most consistent outside shooter? No, none of them are. Scott's the guy that you can most count on to drop a three. Smith should be better than he is. He's been very erratic. He doesn't finish at the rim at all either. The problem is, in big spots, Lewis is going to get fouled. Richmond's going to get fouled. Zuby's going to get fouled. And you don't know. And at the end of those games, they're going to play a couple of close games. Now, first round NCAA tournament, they could be a 2 seed if they run the table and things break right. They're probably going to be a 3 seed because they can't pick up that much ground in the Big East because there aren't enough good teams. You run through the SEC, you're knocking off great teams every game, ranked teams every game. Big East doesn't have that. So there's not a great win left for them in this conference. So I think they'll be a 3. They could be a 2. I'd love them to be the 2 in the East. I'd love it. I even like them to be the 3 in the East. The Duke and being Newark. Now, first game, they're not going to get anybody in a first round game. I don't care who it is that's going to play with them. Because there's no way they're going to get a team that's a 14 that is going to have a point guard that can handle their pressure. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're going to turn that team over. And they go from defense to offense faster than any team in the country. Faster than anybody in the country. And that's it when they're at their best. It's an odd team in that they don't want to play slow. They want to play fast, even though they can't shoot. Now, the problem is matchups are going to be critical for them, more so than most good top 10 teams. Because if they get the wrong opponent, they could find themselves in a really tough spot. And they go have one of those games where they go 1 for 21 from 3, miss some free throws, and they get knocked off by a point. And it'll be a point because nobody's going to beat them by a lot of points. But I could see a game, and this is my fear, in that second or third round, because you want to see them get to the regional 8, and then you take your chances. You want to play in that regional final, get a chance to play for the Final Four. That means 3 wins, and then you're going to face a good opponent, and you take your chance. And if this team gets to the Final Four, they will be owning this town on a level you haven't seen in a long time. Now, that second round would worry me. I'll be very interested in what they have in front of them. Is there a team that can beat them? In this Big East tournament, Creighton would always be a danger because of Ashworth and Calcabretta. But they'll beat Creighton at the Garden. The team that I'd watch right now, and I'll be fascinated with how they do in the second game tomorrow afternoon, is Xavier. They're red hot. Sean's a really good coach. They're playing really well right now. I'll be fascinated with them because they're dangerous. They're the one team in the league. You know, the other team that actually matches up well with them is Villanova, but they won't see Villanova probably. But that team, Villanova, matches up well with them because of the way they play and the fact that they can drill threes. Villanova's not a bad team. They've lost too many. They don't know how to close games out. Otherwise, they'd be in the NCAA tournament. They've lost so many close games. They're not going unless they run the table, and I don't think they will. And then I don't know what's going to happen to their coach. 3 years without the NCAA tournament at Villanova is catastrophic. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I think Jay will try to keep him. Will fight for him there, but I don't know if that he can. I don't know if he can hold the alums off. I don't know. I think St. John's will win the Big East. I think it's important for them to win the Big East. It matters to them in this year and everything else. Most years, you wouldn't care if a team ranked where they were ranked won their conference tournament or not. It matters for St. John's. They need to take that. They need to take that step. They need to cut down those nets. It's part of this plan. And then they will have the right fuel to go into that tournament and see if they can get to a Final Four. Two best teams in the country. Forget that Auburn lost a couple of tight games last week. It means nothing. That league is loaded. Duke and Auburn are the two best teams in the country. After that, there's about 6 or 7 teams. Houston, Florida is very good. Iowa State, when healthy, discount Iowa State's losses because they did not have their whole team in almost every one of those losses. At full strength, they are a top 6, 7 team. Houston, Iowa State, Tennessee, A&M's very good. But Duke and Auburn are alone. They're on a higher level than everybody else. And like I said, there's like 8 teams, of which St. John's, I think, is the 8th. I don't think St. John's will win a national championship. They could. They have a chance. They deserve to be included. But the idea that they're going to go 6 games and not have their shooting woes hurt them at some point, the way the tournament works, is almost impossible. They're going to have to come down the court and make a shot in a big spot. And the question is, can they make that? The only guy they can rely on in that spot, to me, is Lewis. And then can they go to the line? When Richmond can drive on anybody in the country. But can he go to the line and make the 2 free throws? If he's got the ball late and they have a 2-point lead and they foul him, can he go to the line and make a one-on-one? That's the key. And you know there's going to be games that come down to that because it always does. It always does. But it's going to be fascinating to watch. It really is. And we'll obviously cover for you wall to wall. I haven't done a lot on the Knicks. We'll hold off until after the tournament's over. Then we'll be ready for the playoffs. Hey, the Knicks are not they're not going to beat Cleveland. And I'm not the biggest Boston fan, but I don't think they beat Boston either. And they're not beating Cleveland. I've heard all the way till now, and now it's changing. And I've thought it was ridiculous all along. You know, I've been on Cleveland all year. I picked them. I made a wager on them to win over 48 games, which was the easiest bet of all time. They've had 2 15-game winning streaks in the same season. That's insane. Insane. They are very, very, and I don't think anybody beats the Thunder out west. Lakers aren't going to beat the Thunder. I know everyone's in love with the. First of all, LeBron's not going to last through the playoffs. They're not beating the Thunder, and I don't even think they'd get to them probably. But the Thunder are going to be in the finals, and I wouldn't not to be surprised if it's Cleveland and Thunder in the finals. But we got plenty of time for that. So we got a lot to do. We got the Rodgers watch. We got a lot of Yankee stuff and Mets stuff as we head towards opening day. We got obviously a couple of weeks of great basketball coming up, which will take day to day with Bet Rivers and everything else. We have the Players Championship, which I will do tomorrow. Okay. Or maybe do something. Maybe I'll do something on it tonight. I don't want this to be 100. I don't want this to be too long. I will do it. Normally, I would say Scheffler wins in a roll, but Scotty is not himself right now. Coming back from that injury, he has not shown me yet that he's back to where he needs to be. I actually think he's good to bet against this week because he's such an overwhelming favorite. He's 5-1 to win it. The next guy's 12. Scotty has dominated the last couple of years, but that injury, and the cut he suffered, okay, he hasn't played the same way yet. So maybe this week's the breakout week. I would wager against him and think it's going to take him another month. I think he'll probably be ready by the time it gets to the Masters, but I don't think he's ready yet. So I would play against him this week. I have a couple of long shots that I like. I'll probably put that out tonight because it starts tomorrow morning. Good to be back. I'm going to pass on the emails because this already is a very, very long podcast. So go to Bet Rivers for all of your wagering needs. We will be covering the tournament wall to wall. We'll stay on top of this Rodgers thing. And like I told you, for you Giant fans, the Giants could not do more than they are doing. They have done everything they could possibly do. They are all in. They are, without any question, all in trying to sign Rodgers in every way. They are just hoping that they can get this done. I can tell you right now, even I think right now that he's going to Pittsburgh, but I don't know that that's a given. And with Rodgers, is anything ever a given? I really will be disappointed because I like watching him. So I hope he's here with the Giants this year. I really want him to be. So I'm hoping he is. Not that I can't watch him in Pittsburgh. I can, but I don't want him. I'd rather lock into the Giants that way. I watched every pass he threw last year. Every single pass. He was hurt. The team was ridiculously poorly coached, as badly coached as any team I've seen coached ever. And he's got a lot left. He won't be the issue. But you got to have a good offensive line in front of him. There's no way around it. They have to improve that. I think the Giants scare him, that they're bad, that their personnel is bad, that playing in that stadium he's going to hear is not a great thing. Although he should know that it's much easier to throw in this stadium than it was the old stadium. And going to Pittsburgh is no picnic either. You're not getting a big weather break there. Plus, remember, this guy's played his career in Green Bay. This guy set those passing numbers in Green Bay. He didn't play in some dome somewhere. You realize how good he was? He was doing this in Green Bay. I just hope he signs here. I don't know that he will. I don't know what else the Giants can do. I mean, the Giants, I think, will pay him. You're hearing numbers of $100 million for 2 years. Hey, whatever it takes. But I just don't know. Sounds like he's fascinated with playing for Tomlin. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Good to be back. We'll see you later.